Hello everyone, welcome to the Coach Chris Oliver Show. I'm Chris Wells. Coach will join me in just a few moments. This week we'll take a look back at the Blue Raiders' 40-24 win over Campbellsville University as the Blue Raiders retained the Highway 55 traveling trophy for a fourth consecutive year, defeating the Tigers for the sixth time in 7 years. We'll also preview Point University, who is coming up this Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Central Time out at Blue Raiders Stadium. It's game 2 of this 2019 season. Again, 1:30 p.m. Central Time out at Blue Raiders Stadium as Point University comes down. First ever time that these two teams will meet. We're going to step away for a couple minutes. When we come back, we will visit with head football coach Chris Oliver. This is the Coach O Show on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network. Welcome back to the Coach O Show. Coach Chris Oliver joins me now. And Coach, Campbellsville, it was a win. I don't know that it was the best game we could put out there, but it was the first game of the season, and there's always a few glitches trying to, I guess, learn one another in game one during any season.
Yeah, I think there's probably very few football coaches out there who feel like their first game out of the gate is as sharp or as great as they want it to be for their team. There's things you're learning from as a team. There's things you're learning from as coaches. We had some coaches' errors as well on personnel substitutions and things like that start with me. And so we're all learning. We're all getting out there. The officials are getting in the swing of things. And you're never as sharp game one as you want to be, but that's part of the process. You want to be playing your best football as the season goes along. But we were pleased with the outcome. As we talked about after the game, there were a lot of positives in all three facets of the game, a lot of things to build on, and a lot of things that we had an opportunity to correct on video and get in and learn from. And at the end of the day, I thought our kids were resilient. We finished really well, and I'm excited about how we came out and played game one, even though there's things we'll sharpen up.
Rivalry games are always tough. I mean, you never really know how it's going to ebb and flow during the entire game. And I felt like going into the game, looking down at the field, it looked like our guys were really ready to play. And it was a little bit of a choppy start for really both teams. Mm-hmm. I think Lindsey got in the flow a lot quicker than Campbellsville. But there is something about a rivalry game that you just can't put a finger on. It just is what it is.
Yeah, for sure, and especially when you have a fresh season. each team is 0-0, and you had the sky's the limit. Mm-hmm. When we played a year ago, they were kind of at a spot where their season, I don't want to say it was over, but they were really struggling. We were coming off a couple tough losses as well, mm-hmm. still playing for an opportunity at the postseason. So that dynamic is a little bit different. You start game one, and anything can happen throughout the course of the season. And there's still a lot of football left for them and for us, obviously, at this point. But yeah, it's a whole different dynamic. Some of the personnel, but you don't know the new players who are either transfers or guys who are, like Josh Lewis and Terrell Cole. They show up immediately for us, as well as other guys. Guys who redshirted a year ago have never stepped on the field right. in a college football game. You don't know all those guys for your opponents, so that unknown there. And you're going to get your opponent's best effort, and they're going to be preparing like heck to get the job done. So there's a lot riding on a game like that. It is tough to prepare for.
We talked a little bit about it in the post game on last Thursday night. We just kind of let off the gas a little bit. You got that big lead. I don't know. I know you as coaches don't feel this on the sideline, but I talked to a few people afterwards. And they felt, I really didn't feel like Lindsey was ever in any danger of losing that game, and I don't know that I felt that way, but I know you guys didn't. But there was a let off a little bit, wasn't there?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say when it was a 3-point game, I think there was a lot of concern about how our opponent had come back. So I think there's two things there. You got to give credit to our opponent. Mm-hmm. They found a little lightning in a bottle at quarterback. I think they found out who they wanted to play, and he came in and did really well. So credit goes to that. But I can tell you, when it was 20-3 and we had that score early in the third quarter, I said to our coaches on the headset before their next two touchdowns, I said, man, our sideline feels a little funny. It just kind of feels like we're a little bit, looking forward maybe to the end of the game. And I think we did let off the gas a little bit. So, we can only control what we can control. We can't control who they're playing at any position or how, our opponent executes and those things. We can control us. And I think we let up a little bit from an enthusiasm standpoint when it was 20-3. I think we probably let off the gas a little bit, and we have to do a better job of finishing. And hopefully it's a situation we can learn from. Our opponent didn't give up; they fought back, and all of a sudden it was a ball game.
Right.
And I'm excited about how we finished in the fourth quarter. There's another great example. In the Mid-South Conference, this week, Kentucky Christian was up by 4 touchdowns on, new member Thomas Moore. Thomas Moore came roaring back, took the lead, and KCU finished them off late. But, it's college football, and you got to play for 60 minutes, and anything can happen. And we have to do a better job of finishing throughout the course of the game. And hopefully we're in a lot of situations where we have a lead in the second half. And that's something you have to get used to playing with, and we can learn from that from last Thursday night.
I hear coaches all the time say it's better to learn in a win than learn in a loss. But how do you and your coaching staff go about showing the film on things that need to be corrected in a win situation versus loss? Is it any different?
Well, it is different from a mindset standpoint. That's one of the challenges of winning and trying to stay sharp and try to perfect your game. Sometimes winning covers up a lot of things. And if you just worry about that end result and don't worry about the process that gets you there on a one play at a time and how those things go, if you don't keep your focus on how can we improve, then that's a recipe for a real bad outcome eventually. So it's something that you have to stay sharp on. You have to keep it at the forefront of their mind. You can't sit around and watch your highlights all weekend and get caught up in the fact that we went 1-0 and won the rivalry and all that stuff. That's great. We want to celebrate it, but we got to move on and continue to focus on getting better. And it can't just, it's a results-oriented game in sports, but it can't be just, well, we won or we lost. We have to continue to work our process and get better because, we're far from being a finished product as a team, and we can play much better than we did last Thursday night.
Lindsey Wilson wins it 40-24, retains the Highway 55 trophy for a 4th consecutive year. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back in a couple of minutes. This is the Coach Chris Oliver Show on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network. Back to the CO Show, Coach Chris Oliver. Coach, there was a lot of individual efforts, a lot of team efforts, obviously a lot of good things that happened on the team. I want to talk a little bit about the individual things for just a minute. I know it's a team game, but I want to highlight a couple of things. I thought some of your individuals, I thought CJ Dickerson was terrific, especially on that defensive line early. I think he really helped that D-line set the tone for the game.
Yeah, I felt like we had an advantage in our lines, and they did some good things to us as well. They brought a lot of pressure with their D-line and their linebackers. And I thought their O-line played rather well throughout the course of the game, but I still felt like we had probably an experience advantage in the lines, and C.J. Dickerson is one of those guys. He's one of the best defensive linemen in this conference when you look at all 3 divisions. He's a great player. He's a great leader, but he's a tough guy to block. He's very quick. He's powerful, and he still carries a lot of weight behind him. He's a very difficult guy from a matchup standpoint, especially with the things that we do with our defensive line, and we're going to move those guys, and that really highlights CJ for a guy with his type of skill set. But yeah, he played a great game.
Did you feel like your defense was flying around a lot during the game?
Yeah, I thought our pursuit was pretty good. I think there were a couple moments where we lost a little bit of technique and lost a little bit of assignment. But I think pursuit, while it's always something that we can improve upon, I thought for game 1 it was pretty solid. I thought our tackling was pretty solid. We had a couple missed tackles that we need to improve upon. We talked about that in the pregame about how do we tackle game 1 when you don't practice it a lot during training camp, just with the nature of football these days in that way. You don't practice live tackling, I should say. So I thought those things were pretty good for game 1, but we can be better.
Jared Dougherty became the all-time leader in points at Lindsey Wilson, past Blake England, who set that mark a season ago. Yeah. Jared's been really, really consistent over his career at Lindsey Wilson.
Yeah, we're fired up that he's a Blue Raider and that he's been a part of our program, and he hopefully has a lot more points to score this season. But that's a big honor for him, and 2 big field goals, and played pretty well. But we're excited about Jared and how he's doing, and he would tell you he can be more consistent as well.
Special teams, how did we handle things on Thursday night?
It was a roller coaster.
Yeah,
it was a roller coaster. We had some really good moments. I thought our punt team played pretty well. That was an area that we did not execute very well a year ago against that opponent. So we fixed some things and then did a couple quick kicks and took some pressure off our punt team. I thought our punt team was pretty good. Kickoff return for the most part was pretty darn good. We had one missed block early that set us up inside the 20, which is never where you want to be, but the rest of the night we had great field position from a kickoff return standpoint. Kickoff was hit and miss, and that's something we really hang our hat on. It's tough to simulate that one as well. We do a little bit of live tackling on kickoff during training camp. We're not fired up about doing that, but that's part of the way that we want to practice so that we're ready. We had some really good moments there on kickoff, and we had a couple bad ones. Some of that was coverage, some of that was the kick placement. Those things can be better. Obviously, field goal team was pretty good. We missed a PAT, but field goal was outstanding. And punt return was kind of hit and miss. We had a big one there from a return standpoint, but also we can do a better job of fielding the ball. So it was very much a roller coaster all night. A lot of positives, but some very correctable things for us too.
Offensively, Jay Godlock reached the 100-catch plateau. Congratulations to Jay. He played very well, made a couple of acrobatic catches, had 6 catches on the night for almost 100 yards in the game. Talk a little bit about your how your offense did.
Well, it's good to hit the big plays. We can be more consistent. I think I was a little disappointed with how we played on third down. We ended up in a few more third and long situations than we'd like to be in, so we got to do a better job on first down. That's a situation that's going to set you up for success. But third down was a little rough. I think it was 4 or 14, I believe, and we want to be up closer to 40, 45, approaching 50% for sure in a single game. So we got to improve on third down. I thought offense, we didn't turn the football over. I think that's a big one. I thought we did some really good things in some moments, but consistency is where we want to find that next step.
Is the third down conversion, was it a product of just being in third and long too often?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest aspect of it. When you're in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, those are tough situations to convert. Now I'll tell you that our pass protection wasn't very good. There's a lot of things that go along with that for last Thursday night. Some of it was on the quarterback, some of it was on the offensive line, some of it was on the running backs. It was a shared issue, I can tell you that. We were very sloppy with our pass protection, especially in our third down situations when they brought pressure. All the things that happen to us are very correctable, somewhat basic mistakes, which is what makes it a little bit more disappointing. But the good news is we can move forward and get it corrected and get it fixed. But if we protect like we did the other day on third down, then we're not going to complete and convert on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. But I'm confident we'll get it fixed and we'll get better and learn from it.
You talked about Josh Lewis, Terrell Cole, both had good games, both caught a touchdown. Talk a little bit more about your freshman, your redshirt freshman overall. I mean, if you had to give them a grade, I mean, we're an institution of higher education. If you had to give them a grade, where would you rate them at?
Well, I thought there were a lot of guys that got their first college snaps that did really well. Are there mistakes? For sure, obviously, but I thought overall as a group they handled the situation really well, and that's one of the things you're most concerned about. You talk about technique and what they did. Did we make a tackle? Did we make a block? Did we make a catch? You're going to have things that you make mistakes on and we have to get corrected. But the biggest thing is, we handled adversity. We're in a 27-24 game in the late third quarter. And some of these guys were playing their first college game, with this discussion. And we finished and we played outstanding in the fourth quarter. So I think when you give them a grade overall, you have to kind of zoom out and look at how did we handle the big picture situation. And I think we'd say that, for the most part, we're pretty pleased with how that went down. And
we talk about this all the time. The most important stat line is the score, but the second most is turnovers, and you won that battle 3-0. I got to think that you'll take that every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
We're very excited that our defensive goal was a minimum of 3 turnovers. We want to force 3, and we hit that. In offense, we want to have 0. So to come out game 1 and to be +3 and to hit those goals, I mean, we are going to win a lot of football games if we continue to do that. And that's something that is, it's not just what we preach, it's kind of in the lifeblood of our program and the way that we practice. and it continues to pay dividends for us.
Step away for a couple moments. When we come back, we're going to talk about a few other things about the game. Lindsey Wilson wins at 40-24 over Campbellsville, retains the Highway 55 trophy. We'll talk about that. We'll get our players of the week. We'll be back. This is the CO Show on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network. Welcome back to the Coach O Show. I'm Chris Wells, sitting alongside LWC head football coach Chris Oliver. And Coach, before we go down through our list of players of the game, I want to talk about the importance of keeping that Highway 55 traveling trophy. It's just something when you walk into the offices and you see that, it's just a reminder of, you know what, we did something good.
Yeah, I mean, it's something our guys take pride in. I remember years ago when we kind of collectively came up with the traveling trophy and how that was going to work, and it was a great idea and something that came to fruition for both schools. And both teams take a lot of pride in possessing that, and you look at pictures over the years of post games, whether it's their celebrations or our celebrations, those are memories that last forever. Sure. And you don't want to say any one game is more important than another, because when you only get 10 or 11 guaranteed opportunities and you're playing to get in the postseason, you're playing to win conference championships, you can't put an importance on one game more than another. But at the same time, there's things that go along with a rivalry and a traveling trophy that make it special. And it's great for our guys to be able to experience that right out of the gate. We're excited about our guys who have been here for 4 years. Haven't lost that traveling trophy, and here we are 6 out of 7 years. So it's something we take pride in, but we know that each year, that thing's up for grabs, and whoever gets to bring it back to the office or wherever we keep it, those guys, it's a great celebration and a great moment.
You got shorted a little bit last year. You realize that, right? You played in November. Played in November last year, and you played in August this year. You didn't get that full 365, so hopefully you get a little bit more of an extended keep this year.
Well, we would have been shorted if we hadn't taken care of it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But we did.
This week, Stevie Miller was the Defensive Player of the Week in the Mid-South Conference, had 9 tackles, 2.5 tackles for a loss, a fumble recovery. Jared Dougherty was the Special Teams Player of the Week, scored 10 points, made a couple of field goals, included a 47-yard field goal, and then made 4 or 5 extra points. Those are on the conference level, but each week our coaches put their heads together and they come up with Players of the Week, in addition to a few other things, and we'll let Coach Oliver go through that list right now.
Yeah, we go through our list, and sometimes it's things that don't show up in the stat sheet. Sometimes guys are obvious, and then sometimes other guys, we get a little nitpicky as coaches, so we go through our list. But on defense, our Players of the Week were L.J. Bowman and Stevie Miller. On offense, Jalen Boyd and Cameron Dukes. Special teams, we gave it to H.T. Fountain. And Jared played great, had a couple big kicks. He'd tell you he'd want to be more consistent too, and we'll get there. Our offensive lineman of the week, Eli Cross, played a great game up front. Prep offense, we're going to sing the praises of our prep teams whenever they're doing great, and we had a great first week. Those guys have such a huge role in what we're doing. And I could go back and we can watch last year's videos and last year's interviews, and who are we talking about on prep team? Josh Lewis, Terrell Cole. Yeah. And they come out, and I'm just 2 obvious examples because they scored touchdowns. So that's why I use them as examples, but there's so many other guys I could use as examples. But the prep teams are huge, and these are the guys that are going to be playing for us some point soon. Could be this year, could be later. Prep offense, Chris Parsons, Gavin Fouché, Gavin Bugg, and Logan Thomas. Prep defense, Blake Russell and Jalen Springs won that award. Prep special teams, Andrew Yoho, Tanner Wade, and Logan Collier. And then big plays, we had a number of them. The 4th and goal stop for our defense, the entire defense on the field got a big play for that one. We had that second quick kick. Cameron Dukes hit a bomb, he checked up at the 1, but then Jay Godlock and Hunter Watkins, who was it there? Terrell Cole, excuse me. Those 3 guys all helped keep that ball out of the end zone. And we talk about the college football rules during installation of punt team of, hey, the ball has to come out, your body can be in there, and those guys were keeping that ball out of the end zone. It was a great effort by those guys. James Todd had an interception, forced fumbles for Bowman and TJ James, fumble recovery for Stevie Miller and Bowman. The entire punt return team, we talked about it after the game, the big return by Jay Godlock, but also a great block by Demetrius Patterson, Darius Clark, Josh Lewis had big blocks on that one. Jared Dougherty for 2 big field goals. The 47-yarder was long for sure, but both of them great kicks, pressure situations. Cordarian Trice had a big tackle on a kickoff where we gave up a big return. They busted through, and he hustled to make that tackle. That was a huge one. Cameron Dukes to Josh Lewis on the long touchdown. Terrell Cole on his first career catch for a touchdown. Jalen Boyd had an 8-yard run in the fourth quarter. Kind of gets lost in the stats. It set up a touchdown. It was probably a play that we shouldn't have run. We should have checked it. And he broke 2 tackles on an 8-yard run. That's a big play. It set us up 2nd and 2. And then L.J. Bowman had 3 big hits that we awarded. I think the crowd saw those late in the 3rd and the 4th. A couple big ones that were a lot of fun. A lot of big plays in a game like that.
Lindsey Wilson wins it by a score of 40-24, retains the Highway 55 trophy. And coming up next, Lindsey Wilson hosts Point this Saturday. It's going to be a 1:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff. We'll have a coverage right here on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network. We're going to step away for a couple minutes. Come back, we'll preview Lindsey Wilson and Point. This is the Coach O Show on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network. Welcome back to the Coach O Show. I'm Chris Wells, alongside LWC head football coach Chris Oliver. And before we talk about Point, Coach, I want to tell the folks out there that normally we would have a student-athlete spotlight. We always enjoy talking to our student-athletes. We will continue that starting next week. But with the Campbellsville, we wanted to talk, basically talk a little bit in more detail about the game. So just those of you who love that segment like we do, it'll be back next week after the Point game. Coach, let's talk about Point. First ever meeting between the Blue Raiders and the Sky Hawks. Yeah. Is it difficult playing a team for the first time? I know it's got to be a little bit more difficult playing them early in the season than it would be if it was game 7 or 8 or 9. Yeah,
well, there's challenges with prep, and you haven't played them before, as you said, so you don't have previous scouting reports. You've never really broken down their video before, and now you're trying to find out what video you can get. And then they play an option team last week in Kennesaw State, so you're limited on maybe how much that helps you on one side of the ball. You look at personnel, so there's a lot of challenges that come along with that. And it seems like over the years, they came into our conference 2 years ago when the Sun schools came in. And we've seen them here and there in crossover games versus other teams we've played in our division. But it always seems like those were very early season games against teams who we are playing late. So even though we've seen them a little bit on video over the past couple of years, I haven't studied them a whole lot, up until this time, just because of how those video trades have gone down over the years. So it's interesting to be watching them for the first time and to try to get that. And I can tell you, you look at their record last year, they're a much more impressive team on video than their record would indicate. And this is a completely different team. So you can kind of throw last year out, but this is something I reminded our guys, hey, this is a team that made the playoffs in 2015. We're not that far removed from them being a postseason qualifier, and there's probably still a few kids around that program who at least have gone through that process before. So this is something where we have to be ready to go, and we're gonna have a big challenge. These guys are impressive on video athletically.
Something else you can throw out, as Coach was mentioned, was the fact that their result from a week ago. They lost 59-0, but they lost to a Division II school that is a powerhouse, Kennesaw State. So you can kind of throw that score out the window as well. This is a team that got a first place vote in the Appalachian Division. So, yeah. It's a team that is well respected in their division. It's a team that will, that could contend for that division. Reinhardt, obviously, the favorite in that division, but it's a good challenge to early in the season.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously Reinhardt can't vote for themselves, so you look at that's a vote from the Reinhardt coach, and he felt like this is the team that sticks out. And they're returning 9 of 11 starters on defense, off a defense that was pretty darn good statistically a year ago. And I would clarify that Kennesaw State last week was FCS, not Division II.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
And that's a FCS school that took Georgia State to the wire a year ago. The same Georgia State that beat Tennessee last Saturday.
Yeah.
Kennesaw probably gave one away against them. I mean, Kennesaw is a legit FCS program. So yeah, you can kind of throw that out the window a little bit. I mean, that's an outstanding opponent. Yeah, this is a team that they're going to be ready to get that taste of last week out of their mouth, and ready to get back in the Mid-South Conference and play. And they get an opportunity to come up here. They're excited about playing us for the first time, just like we're excited about playing them for the first time. And they can, make a big statement and take a step forward by coming up and playing well on Saturday. And, we have to be mentally and physically ready to go. This is going to be a big challenge.
1:30 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. That's Lindsey Wilson and Point University for the first ever time on the gridiron. That'll do this week's Coach O Show. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Coach Chris Oliver Show on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network.